I'm going to point out some facts about INTK here that I know a lot of traders don't look at because it's a proven fact that 60% of the people don't read filings and many people don't even know how to read filings. So if you want to trade these OTC stocks, you're going to have to learn how to read filings and know what you're reading so that you can understand what's happening and what's coming and the potential. And the way that you find the filings on these OTCs is by going to otcmarkets.com, typing in the ticker in the quote box, click on disclosure, scroll down, find the latest quarterly disclosure statement, open that, and we're going to scroll down. We're going to look at the share structure, 3.7 billion AS, 3.37 billion OS. The public float is 1.53 billion shares. And then we're going to scroll down here and we're going to look at all of these issued shares that these loan sharks have received for loaning money to the company. Whenever you have a company who can get these loan sharks to loan them money in return for shares, it means that that company has a pretty good story that they're going to present to the world. But when these loan sharks loan money to these companies, most of them receive shares that they're going to be able to sell at one point on the open market. And those shares that they receive are usually given to them at a massive discounted price. So when those shares become unrestricted and these loan sharks can then start dumping those shares into the float, they're going to make 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times their money. So you really want to look at these filings and see who has these shares and how many shares they have and whether they're restricted or unrestricted. And when you learn how to read the filings on all of these, you can piece together the entire story on what's been happening and what's coming in the future. So if this is your first time to my channel here, I'm going to start pointing out some facts and some truth about these stocks that a lot of people don't talk about, but is important for you to understand if you're going to trade these OTCs. So if you're interested in learning more about the truth of the OTC, click the subscribe button, click the bell so that you can get notifications. Anyway, you'll look down here, the date of these transactions, most of these are 2021, and you can see the number of shares they received. You can see the name, and all of these shares are restricted as of the previous date of this filing. So that means that those shares can't be dumped into the float. In other words, they're not going to affect the price of the stock until they're dumped into the float. So dilution is nothing to be concerned about until these shares become unrestricted and when they start getting dumped into the float. Because when they become unrestricted and they start getting dumped into the float, that's going to drive the price down continuously. We're going to scroll down here and look at these remaining shares that these loan sharks have received. And you can see all these different companies and different people who loaned this company money. And these people and these loan sharks are just kicking back, waiting patiently for their moment when these shares are going to become unrestricted so that they can start dumping those into the float or onto the open market, however you want to put it. Now, if you look down here under these debts, you can see some of the same names here of these loan sharks correlating with these shares up here. For instance, Joseph AB Investments. You can see Joseph AB Investments. We have Proactive Capital here. You can see up here Proactive Capital has 10 million shares here. Anyway, you can look through the filings on your own. You can look at all the names here. You can look at the balance owed and when the loans were given. And you can piece together the story and you can get an idea yourself in the potential of what's coming in the future. And when these shares become unrestricted, you're going to start seeing a load of PRs coming and you're going to see exciting news coming. But most people don't know to look for this information. They don't even read the filings. They don't understand how this works. Most people buy these stocks on the social media hype. And a lot of people become married to these stocks. And you can't tell them anything about the truth of what's coming because they'll just call you a basher. And no matter what kind of truth that you point out to them, they don't want to see the truth. And then you've got these paid promoters in these chat groups. And these paid people are on there to pump up the stocks. And they're on there to call these people bashers for pointing out the truth. And I've got upcoming videos that will explain to you how that entire process works so that you can understand that. Because when you understand how this whole game works, it's going to help you to avoid being a bag holder. It's going to help you avoid losing money on these. It's going to help you make better decisions on when to make your entries and when to make your exits. So learning how to read these filings and understanding the difference between restricted and unrestricted is going to save you from losing a lot of money. The other thing that you're going to want to look at is the social media buzz on the stock. You want to look through FinTwits and Reddit and iHub and Twitter. See what people are saying. See if there's a big social buzz or an excitement. The other thing, you want to find out if these people on Twitter who have tens of thousands of followers are pumping this, because that's going to help the stock price as well. But if nobody's pumping it and there's no social media buzz going on, chances are the stock is not going to do very well. So you always have to take into consideration all of these factors whenever you're investing in these. And you don't want to buy these as they're running. You don't want to buy these if they're way up and getting pumped, because most times the first time you see these when they're getting pumped is they're usually way up. You always want to wait for that dip. Just got to be patient. So if we look at the daily chart here, this is actually dipped way down. There's still a lot of exciting news coming. These shares are all still restricted according to the latest filing, but we haven't seen the most recent filing come out yet, so we don't know if they're going to become unrestricted yet. So it's usually good to wait until the filing comes out so that you have current news. Don't buy in between filings. So in other words, if a filing came out a month or two ago and there's going to be another filing coming up in a month, you want to wait and read that most recent filing to see if those shares have become unrestricted. Because in the next filing that comes out, you could see a number of these loan sharks with unrestricted shares, which means that they have either been dumping those shares onto the open market or they're about to start dumping those shares onto the open market. So it's always good to wait until the most recent filing comes out before you make your purchase or before you make a decision to purchase these. So if you look at the date on the most recent filing right here with the disclosure statement, it's on 5/15. So there should be another filing coming out soon with a disclosure statement that's going to show you whether or not those shares are still restricted or if they're unrestricted. So before I would consider purchasing this stock, I'm going to wait for that next filing to come out so that I can see if any of those shares are unrestricted. So I'm pointing out the truth and the facts and the things that you need to look out for. But there's going to be people out there who are going to call me a basher. And those people are usually the bag holders. They're the ones who are married to the stock. They're the paid promoters. They don't want you to know the truth about what's going on. And I've got upcoming videos that are going to point out some really hard facts that you're going to want to learn about so that you can understand how this OTC game works. So if you want to see those, subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so that you can get notified when I upload a new video. So I'm not saying that this stock is bad. I'm just pointing out the facts that you need to be aware of if you're going to play this OTC game. If you're going to make money at this game, you need to learn the truth and you need to learn the facts. And you need to learn how to read the filings. So here's another thing that you want to become aware of here. If you click on news, a lot of times when you see PRs, one after another, you want to make sure that there's hard facts in these PRs, not just a bunch of fluff hype and not just rehashed news over and over. Because when you start seeing this rehashed news over and over and just a bunch of hype of what's coming, those are usually indications that those shares that are held by those loan sharks are unrestricted or they're going to become unrestricted so that they can dump those shares onto the open market. Because there's companies out there that just continue to rehash the same news, give you promises of what's coming, and then nothing ever really happens. It's just a continuous pump so that these loan sharks can dump their shares. So when you see people posting what seems like negative information, don't ignore that. Don't call those people bashers. Take a good hard look at those posts, because when you become emotionally attached to a stock, chances are you're going to lose money or you're already losing money. If you want to make money in the stock market, you can't become emotionally attached to any of this information. Because as soon as you become married and emotionally attached, you're not going to be able to see the truth. Infusions of money in a company is good, and it can do good for the company as long as those shares are still restricted. And if you look at any of these OTC company filings and you see unrestricted shares and you look at the daily chart, you're going to most likely see a declining stock price, and you're going to most likely see a bunch of PRs continuously pumped with rehashed news and promises of what's coming. And I've got many videos coming up that are going to show you a lot of these hard facts with previous companies and how they pump and dump these. And the more aware that you become of how this game works, the more you're going to avoid losing money, the more you're going to be able to make better entries at the right time, and the more you're going to be able to get out green instead of ending up a bag holder. And when you read these PRs, look for the fluff, look for the rehashed news, look for the promises of the future. The less emotional you are, the more you're going to be able to see through the PRs that are just fluff pumped in order for these loan sharks to sell their shares.